we record these calls. So, congratulations, you're YouTube famous. Well, or at least as of 86 subscribers, I guess, if you consider that that's famous. Hey, for those of you who I haven't met before, my name is Lee. I get to be the host of this particular call. In the Layer5 community, we have a few different calls each week, and I'm pleased to not be the host of a couple of those. And so should you too be pleased, because you'll only have to put up with me so much. So on this call, I do a lot of ad lib, but we also have a number of other topics. So quickly to make sure that we have some housekeeping items out of the way. So we mentioned the recording of the call. That's good. Also, here's a link to the meeting minutes in the chat. Please do jump into the meeting minutes. If you click the link and you don't have access, just request it. I'm going to share the meeting minutes momentarily. And say that these meeting minutes are, like everything else here, a collaborative effort. So please toss your name into the list. Please help take the meeting notes, the minutes too. Because we need your help, because I can hardly talk onto its own, and then if I try to talk and type at the same time, it's really something awful. I'm going to embarrass Michu for a moment and say that him having his video on is just, it warms my heart. It makes it so nice to connect. And so for those that haven't met Michu before, he's joining us from, he's a Swiss in Norway. Oslo? No.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yes.
Boy, I had the fortune of working with some good folks in Oslo as Cisco had acquired a telepresence company. I forget the name. But they had some great telepresence equipment about 6-7 years ago. So random. All right, so back to the meeting at hand. There's a number of you who I think haven't been on a call before. If you would, there's a rite of passage, and I think it's a good one. If you would, just take a quick moment to introduce yourself. I'll call on a couple of names. Apologies if you've introduced before, but it doesn't hurt to say hi. And so just randomly, Sumit Nayak, do you want to just say a quick hi and introduce yourself to folks?
Hello everyone, my name is Sumit. I am from India. I am currently a PHP developer and is learning it. Hello everyone. Thank you.
Nice. Sumit, very good. It's also nice to hear people enunciate their own name so I can stop mispronouncing. George, you might have just joined the call right in the moment in which we're asking everyone to introduce themselves. George, if you're in a place where you can say hi and just kind of introduce yourself, please do. Lots of new folks on the call, so nice to get to know people.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is George Ukwebu. I'm a Nigerian.
George, oh, very good. All right. George, whereabouts are you calling from?
From Abia State, Nigeria, Umuahia to be precise.
All right. All right. My Nigerian geography has been improving as of late. I'm not an entire...
Yeah, it's actually the first in the country.
To be fair, I'm still in ignoramus when it comes to such things, but I'm trying. Daniel, I don't know if you've gotten a chance to introduce on this call before, but please do.
No, no. Okay, hello, good evening. My name is Daniel Ofere. I'm calling from Nigeria too.
Very good. Oh, nice. Very good to have Daniel. Oof. Good. Sorry. More folks flowing in. And so, well, Sunfumi, if you can introduce, that would be
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shion Fumi. Yes, and I'm calling from Nigeria too.
nice. Nice. Beautiful. Shunfumi. Yeah, beautiful. Great. Good to have you. Nice. Bala, Mr. Krishna.
Yes, Lee. Good evening here. I'm calling from India. I'm a Kubernetes developer and I'm a AWS developer also. And I want to learn about something like in the mesh topology like Istio and mesh array. For that purpose, I have joined here.
Awesome. Awesome. Very good. Whereabouts in India?
Bangalore.
All right. Hey, Bala, educate me briefly. What's the deal with sometimes Bangalore and sometimes Belaguru?
It will be both.
Oh,
You can put it like that.
It's Bengaluru.
Bangalore.
Yeah.
I should read it.
Yeah, and it's just synonymous then, like whichever one.
But it will be same. However,
Oh, okay.
it will-
Okay. 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 All right. Fair enough. Good to have you, Bala.
Thank you.
And then, yeah, Atanda, Mr. Nafiu. I totally slaughtered that. If you can, just take a moment to introduce.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I'm Atanana Fiu from Nigeria, Lagos to be precise.
Awesome. Very good. Nice to have you. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Hey, Dev, have you gotten a chance to introduce on this call before?
No.
Yeah. Okay. So you were talking to me, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So in the last meeting, I got to introduce myself, but yeah, I will introduce again. Fine. So hi everyone. I am, because there are so many new guys I'm seeing here. So hi everyone. I am Dave and I am from India. And I am here to learn something new and to network with people. Yeah. So that is.
That's awesome. Yeah, very good. You know what's interesting is that this is that Dev said a keyword, and I'm gonna delay the start of the meeting for even a little bit longer just to speak to this, and because it's something that I'm pretty pumped about, and something that I think is a little bit unique to this community, and that is that so KubeCon happened this last week, and KubeCon is is a significant event in the cloud native ecosystem. It's hosted by the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, the CNCF. It's sort of the home of Kubernetes, and then, excuse me, like 49 other projects. By the way, Meshery, one of our bigger projects, very likely to be the 52nd project, if you will. Like there's a lot. We engage in that community a lot. Anyway, on the Slack, they have turned on a bot that, anytime that someone says like, hey, do you guys know where to go find something? Anytime that phrase guys is used, the bot comes on and says, hey, check your language, try to use something more gender neutral and I got to say, like, of the many talks that I give on stage, having been raised by my mom who just uses that euphemism all the time, just like, hey, you guys do this, you got, It's been really hard for me to try to check my language. And anyway, living in Texas right now, you'd think that I'd have a nice y'all. I'd be saying y'all every which way. I've yet to kind of pick up on it, but I'm trying to because of what is actually happening in this community, which is really nice. We've got Kaleche and Ruth and Anita, and I'm trying to pick out other names, but just we've got female nerds, female geeks showing up here and actually showing up some of the rest of us, so to speak. And I recognize it ain't easy. Being a young, at one point being a young freckle-faced, pale, nerd myself in school. So, having been through a lot of trials and tribulations over the last couple of decades, I recognize like it's we're not all communities and not all subject areas are all that inviting. So Adiola is here with us as well. Anyway, I'm super encouraged that that people have found it a warm environment. So it's nice. So just a word on that. Moving on quickly, if we can. Who else is here new that didn't get a chance to introduce themselves? Yeah, Usama, like you're old news at this point, man. So yeah.
Hello, hi everyone. I'm calling from Uganda, East Africa. Actually, little I'm the only East African here. So I say thank you to everyone that is giving me good company, and I'm hoping to learn much more from the community. Thanks to everyone. Thank you, Lee.
Yeah, totally. Very good. Anyone else? Get going on the meeting minutes here. Some good things to share. Busy week. Who all who all attended KubeCon? Like, who all got to catch like a keynote or get in on the free hall pass? Like, Kush, I know you were there for as long as you could stomach it anyway. Who else stopped into KubeCon? David, did you make it out? David G? No. Okay. Yeah, boy. Anyway, KubeCon is kind of the focus of our initial set of discussions. Part of our announcements. It's an important event for the technologies that we focus on, and as such, it happens twice a year, and we try to be a bit forward-leaning in the technologies that we focus on here, and so we try to share. For my part, I think I've spoken at the last 8 KubeCons, I guess, and I've been really pleased to be able to share the stage with Pratik this year. Pratik Sahu, he's a PhD student here at the University of Austin, Texas. He's been engaged in the community for about a year, and to finally be able to get some of his research out there, he'd been doing some studies around, performance analysis, which is, part of what the Meshray project makes its name on. And we were, acknowledging that there's a lot of intelligence that you can build into the data plane of a service mesh, and you can do that in different ways. And so understanding that there's a little bit of a cost to wherever you put intelligence, wherever you put logic and code, it'll cost you anywhere that you place that. He's been trying to help us quantify the overhead, the latency, the overhead of logic that's placed into the data plane. And there's different ways that you can place it there. And so And so, yeah, so he's been able to, so he's got a great talk. I feel really poorly of the talk that he had given. These are pre-recorded talks. The webcast engineer at the time, which is I think yesterday at KubeCon, accidentally started playing the recorded talk like 20 minutes early. And so people that came to the talk were totally out of sync. I mean, the audio and video was totally out of sync with the slides that were being presented. And so it was just, yeah, I feel bad because it was his first time presenting, and but great presentation. There's a lot of data and info that he and a number of the rest of you here have been working on in this regard. So while there's a little bit of that data that's published on that page, you'll also find, I think, down in the notes from prior meetings, a full deck and some additional info that might be of interest to you. So kudos to Pratik on his first KubeCon presentation. We had a couple of other presentations at KubeCon. One of them was very much so about the initiatives that are happening within the Layer5 community. There's a working group. There's a special interest group in the CNCF. It's called SIG Network. There's a working group, the Service Mesh Working Group. It's a young working group. We're just formally forming it, but under its umbrella or in its field of focus is a few initiatives that we focus on here. One of them is the SMI, Service Mesh Interface. Another one is the spec, the standard that this community has been working on for a while at Service Mesh Performance. And so we kind of went through at KubeCon some of the stuff that you guys, y'all, geez, I just said it there, right? I just said you guys have been working on, and we got to tell people about it. So it's really nice. So there's a talk out there. I think if you didn't attend to KubeCon and you think that some of the things that are presented are of interest, I think we're all fortunate in that those recorded talks will be posted on YouTube to consume at your leisure. There were two other individuals in our community who've been kind of prominent, Ant Weiss and Nitish Malhotra. They both gave talks. Neither of the two of them are on right now, and so I don't want to misconstrue their talk. The links to their talks are down below. There's also, at KubeCon, there's also a number of other side attractions, other smaller conferences that, excuse me, that go on. One of those is called Service Mesh Con. The Layer5 community was called out at the end of the day as being a really interesting thing, a community and projects that people should really pay attention to. And that's great. That was really great. Also called out pretty prominently was SMP, the Service Mesh Performance specification that we're working on that we just talked about. It was called out in context of SMI, highlighted as a real area of interest, which is nice. I know that probably for the majority of us that are on this call right now, SMP, Service Mesh Performance, that specification and what it means and what we're doing there is probably entirely foreign, which if that's the case for you, there's two things to do. One is to peruse this site to get a little bit of familiarity. The other thing is that you're in good company because it's any specification, any abstraction like that is confusing to me too, or like abstractions and specifications are just kind of a bit foreign. So, anyone have any other comments about KubeCon or Service Mesh Con? sometimes if I pause long enough, that just elicits someone to say, forces someone to say something. Okay, good. Well, the event's over. I got to say, it was the first time it was run as a virtual event. Boy, it just wasn't the same at all. They, great. They did as well as they can, but just virtual conferences are a different beast than being able to catch up with people in person. So cool. All right. Well, we've got some other topics to go through today. Anirudh, I think you're first up.
It'll take me around 5 minutes to set up. So can you have something first?
Sure. Yeah. Let's come on back. The next topic is who wants to talk about this one? So, which is probably either if Anita is on or Shriti is on. Do you guys want to introduce this and get some feedback from the community on this idea?
Hey, I'll go ahead with it, if that's okay, Ruth. Okay, so we are planning to add a good first issue bot to the Layer5 repo, which basically will tweet out about any issues that have the good first issue tag on them. And that's good publicity because it attracts any initial or new contributors to the Layer5 repo and its projects, and is good for both us and the contributors because it gives us a chance to help people get started and gives the contributors a chance to get involved with the community. We have an open issue. A link is provided in the meeting minutes, I think. So any thoughts, anybody?
Yeah, we have discussed. I think we have discussed this good first issue bot on development call. Yeah, and I think this is good enough to add. Like, it is good for publicity and also good for like new contributors.
Yep. So we have an open issue.
Last one from my side. Sorry.
Nothing. I was just expanding on my point. So we have an open issue for this. If anybody wants to take this up, you're very, very welcome to. Again, we have a link in the meeting minutes. That's all. Thanks.
Nice. Good. Yeah, it would be even better if that Twitter account had more followers. But either way, so long as we're able to welcome a couple of first-time contributors, that's fantastic. All right. Kush, are you in a position to talk about the SMI conformance tool today? Maybe show people how that works?
The conformance tool has already spin up around 40 pods in my Docker desktop, and I'm still not able to run it. Like the pods, the namespace keep on increasing.
Oh, okay. Okay. So still a work in progress. Okay. Well, I know we've talked about this tool a time or two on other calls. Maybe we'll, Kush, if you are able to by the end of the call, that would be great. Yeah, if you can delete the namespaces or just walk people through what it's supposed to be, that would be good.
I'm still trying to keep up with all the namespaces it has created. Right now, there are 12 namespaces, which corresponds to just Kudo test. So if at the end of the call, all the namespaces and deployments are completed, I'll surely demonstrate the tool.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. And then, yeah, I think most of the folks on the call don't have context for what SMI is, first of all, much less what a conformance tool is. And so, all right. Anirudh, are we back to you?
Yeah, I think I can start demo.
Nice.
So okay, so is my screen visible?
It is coming. There it is.
It is okay. Yeah, great. So let me just get a plan on what we're trying to do first, so you have a bit more context. Okay, let's drive. Layer5 community meeting. Share with me. That's it. Where is it? Lee, could you actually share the file again?
Sure. Yeah, and
The
this one.
one with
This.
mesh receivable.
All right. Got it.
It's not.
Let's see.
Mesh receivable. Let's mesh receivable. Yeah. So I guess the doc's visible now.
It is.
Yeah. So what we're planning to do is add. Currently, we support system commands that's maintaining material lifecycle and configuring it, and perf to create call performance uh, benchmarking tool, and that is the total CLI support right now we have, and we are planning to add service mesh lifecycle management, and for that we have the mesh command. So with what currently we have in mind is being able to deploy a service mesh through the CLI. Currently, this is the UI for that, and you can actually go like OSM. You could simply go and deploy a service mesh to this, like deploy open service mesh. I could simply do this, and that would deploy a service mesh for me. So this is the UI part, but we're planning on adding CLI support for it, and that's currently a work in progress. And the other subcommand would be mesh validate, where we could actually run SMI conformance to test if the service mesh conforms with the SMI spec. So these two are a work in progress as of now, and currently I have a template for mesh-CTL mesh validate. So I'm on mesh-CTL, right? Yeah. So it's mesh-CTL mesh validate. So currently it doesn't call the test as LA, so there's a template data right now. We are in progress of making APIs support output responses perfectly right now, and so currently we are using a template here. So that is the number of success tests and the number of failed tests, and it actually checks if the mesh is running or not. And so this is more on a mesh validate, and the part for creating OSM. So this you can this postman, and I can actually send a post request. Currently, this is how I'm um, deploying a service mesh on mesh tree. So I've actually called in for OSM driver, and you can see it being deployed. So that's something we're working on, integrating this into the service mesh CTL mesh create. And yeah, so here this is most of what we are trying to complete now, and hopefully in I guess 1 to 2 weeks we might have a better demo than this. And so if does anyone have experience with this, like has anyone worked with any API client in Go? Anyone? Uh, okay, so
Yeah, I think, yeah. There are just to speak on behalf of a couple of there are a couple of folks on this call that I would call out that say that do or that actually have contributed to Mesh3 CTL and having Mesh3 CTL invoke REST operations in Mesh3. And there's a number that aren't on the call that have as well. Anirudh, in part, you're making a call for input and participation on the design of.
yeah. So we do need help with improving the doc for Mesh3 CTL, as well as planning on what different lifecycle commands do we add. Currently, we've thought of Mesh3 start and probably mesh delete to, and some sort of sum of functions. So if there's any if you guys have any idea on what do you think we should add to the mesh service mesh lifecycle management, that would be great to hear. Okay.
Yep. Very good. And Anirudh, anything else? Anything else to add there?
Yeah. So the last thing here I would say is, like, if anyone wants to work with me on Mesh3 CTL or Mesh3 CTL Mesh Validate, or perhaps improve the doc, you could let me know. I'm on Slack, obviously, at the Layer5 channel, and just let me know if you want to help contribute or help me make it better. Yep, I guess that's it.
Yeah. Nice, very good. Yeah, it's. I'll reflect for just a moment and maybe give you, Anirudh, something to noodle on as rest of sort of the rest of us. I'll say this: that is, as many of us familiarize with Mesh3 and its abilities, and we think about the word validate, it's interesting to think that I would bet that there's a number of you that are on this call right now that are, and maybe I should just speak for myself, but scratching your head and saying, I don't know what the hell Anirudh is talking about. Much less could I offer up any meaningful feedback. And that's where you would be wrong. That's where I would be wrong. And in part because I'll say this, that Mesh3 CTL is a command line tool. And it's a tool that all of you, if you're gonna use Mesh3, that you'll interact with. Like, you'll do a Mesh3 CTL start or something. And since you touch it, just like you touch any UI, like this one, this simple site that we have that talks about one of the projects in the community, that since you're touching it, in this case with your mouse, you have an opinion as to whether or not you like the feel of that button. That felt good or it didn't. It took too darn long for that bootstrap effect to take a play. Whatever your opinion is, whether you're educated on user experience design or not, turns out your opinion is valid because you're a user of this interface. So maybe it shouldn't be yellow, it should be something. Anyway, the point is, with Mesh3 CTL, you're a user of Mesh3 CTL. Maybe you don't like the fact that it's called Mesh Validate. Maybe that doesn't really make any sense to you. And here's how you can, as you familiarize with Mesh3, I would say that I'd actually ask for your feedback on this. For those that do want to get or are already into Mesh3, please give this some thought, that one of the features that Mesh3 has is, as it manages any given service mesh, it will let you do some validation operations. And it's kind of cut off in this screenshot, but it talks about, today we use the word validate to mean tell Meshery to go over to your service mesh deployment, analyze the deployment, and inform you against best practices. Is your service mesh configured in the right ways? So today, that validate command does this. Users will see this back in their UI. They'll see a list of different best practice checks saying, hey, looks like you hit the wrong, it'll run individual checks and it'll say, yep, yeah, you're doing best practices stuff, or not, you're doing it wrong, do it this way. Or it'll make a suggestion. And today we use the term validate in context of like analyzing config. Well, what Anirudh is proposing is that there's a new form of validation operation. That new validation operation in Meshery is actually what Kush was considering demoing, and it is that Meshery will run a bunch of tests against a service mesh that is set up to be SMI compliant, service mesh interface compliant. This is the service mesh interface. It's just a set of APIs. If a service mesh says that it conforms to those APIs, which these meshes do, or they proclaim to, well, Meshery is the official tool that will be used by the SMI project to verify that. Good. And so as these projects and as users go to use Meshery to verify SMI compliance, well, some people are going to use the UI to invoke that operation, and some people are going to use the CLI, Meshery CTL, to invoke that operation. And the reason that I'm saying that any individual, all of you on this call have valid feedback is, as a user, you can go and get a sense of how this feels, whether or not this is intuitive to you. Like, is this set of commands, is this sort of intuitive for invoking a series of conformance tests to verify if a service mesh is SMI compatible? And when you think about it in context of the fact that today Meshery already, in the UI, it already lets you verify, check for best practices. Now, we actually haven't exposed that in the CLI. We actually don't have a command to invoke that. And so since these two things, these concepts are, we use some of the same words, validate, we're thinking maybe they should be kind of co-joined and kind of together, both in the CLI and in the UI. But so an open question and a call for comments is, how does this strike people? For my part, one of the things that it's kind of missing here is something like, again, like is like type console or something like that. Like, hey, generally people are going to want to run, like they will execute this sort of command in context of the mesh that they have deployed. That might be implicit, or it might not be something that they have to explicitly define. The shorter the commands, the better. If Meshery CTL already has the concept of a context, which, those that are, anyone who uses kubectl or the Docker CLI, you're beginning to become sort of familiar with context, or how you might switch between clusters. So anyway, you don't have to know any code to bring up these considerations. And it's really fun to tell Anirudh that he's doing it wrong too. So that's a bonus on top. I'm totally kidding. He's not there. But anyway, so there's links to this stuff. The link to the Meshery architecture is here. Kind of interesting as anyone goes to get familiar with Meshery. It's like, well, we were talking about APIs and CLIs. And so where does all that fit in? Well, again, anyone like me needs pictures with big round objects to really understand anything. And so those are there for your reference. I'll pause and say, having described that, any feedback for Anirudh, any feedback, about this effort? Ooh, yeah. So David brings up a good question, sort of in context of what we're talking about here, about, ensuring best practices and kind of checking on things. David's, if I can paraphrase, David's question is, hey, will Meshri highlight the fact that maybe you're experiencing some traffic issues, some packet loss, latency that you didn't really want? Maybe you've defined an SLO for a particular response time in milliseconds against a service request. Will Meshri let you know about that? The answer is that it's roadmap, that Meshri is capable of more than capable of measuring latency. So Meshri doesn't generate alerts on, it doesn't allow you to specify an SLO or a threshold by which you would want to know about a slow set of services or a slow response. It doesn't do that yet. It does let you, if you have Prometheus or Grafana deployed in your environment, Meshri you can connect Meshri to Prometheus and Grafana, or one or the other. If you've invested time into Grafana dashboards, Grafana panels, Meshri will read all those in and let you take advantage of your investment into specific panels, specific dashboards in Grafana. It'll pull those in and graph them. So in some respects, the answer is sort of yes, it can show you that you're experiencing some higher than normal latency or packet loss. But that's like nominally helpful. That's like not special to Meshri today. What is special to Meshri today in this regard is that it'll let you easily test the performance of, or the response time, or the throughput of a particular set of your services under whatever config you're applying to the service mesh. It'll generate load and measure that, which is good and helpful in, probably in non-production environments or on a separate path. But it's bad, or it's not the full gamut of what people would want, and I don't think is really exactly what David was kind of asking about. It's related, and it's good for preparing for a change, to testing out what a configuration change to your mesh, how that might impact the performance of your services, and that's all like specific to your environment, specific to your workload, specific to your cluster sizes, specific to the config that you would apply to the mesh, and what version of the mesh you're running, and all these things. And Meshri is on its journey to trying to be a tool that provides easily repeatable set of tools around answering those questions. Soon, Meshri will have performance test profiles, so you can go out and describe the type of test that you want to run and recall it very quickly, and have that run and have that programmatically invocable. Maybe you want to call that from your release pipeline, and have a certain set of soak tests or capacity tests or whatever invoked from there. That's good. It's part of the answer. The other part of the answer is more like, hey, no, sort of real-time assessing of the environment and whether or not things are going haywire. So we are, that's like that type of a use case is directly in our crosshairs. It's actually, to David's question, it's exactly what our this presentation at KubeCon was really like the underpinnings of it are about is that at some point we'll provide people with the ability to deploy an Envoy filter, probably through WASM, that does these measurements, like actually watches for tracks latency. And it's not that you can't track that elsewhere, it's that you might want to do something about it, like from the data plane right then and there, and maybe do something about it based on who's logged in, or like whether or not that request has an open shopping cart, maybe if that's what's important to you, or maybe those individuals are signed up for the Premier plan. And so, you need to have a much more intelligence in your QoS or in your handling of retries or any number of things. And so, anyway, I love David's question. There's a ton of things that we want to do in and around that question, and we want to do it in a little bit of a novel way, or so Anirudh, hope that was all the feedback you were looking for. So the real-time, and so David's another good question, which is, hey, will any of the real-time assessment stuff that we're just alluding to make it to the CLI? Because David's totally right. Like, there's a ton of value. Yes is the short answer, and then I'll pontificate about that for a minute and say that, like, in part, what Anirudh was speaking to about the programmatic invocation of SMI conformance tests. Yeah, there'll be some, this is my estimation, that there'll be some users that have said, hey, we want to use that abstraction, we want to use SMI, and we've chosen console or whatever mesh. And we want to just make sure that as we upgrade console or as we upgrade the specs on SMI, that things are, all good, that we're still, that infrastructure is still in compliance. Great. Sometimes they're going to want to do that. The service meshes themselves, they're absolutely going to want to do that all the time, every time they make a release, which means that they're going to be baking Meshery into their pipelines, which means, to David's point, they're going to want to be able to invoke that programmatically. They can either hit Meshery's REST API to do it, or I suspect in a CI pipeline, they're probably going to feel just as comfortable scripting around Meshery CTL to CLI. So to that same use case, David's question about some of the real-time assessment stuff making into the CLI, yeah, I guess I already said it. Yes, that some of that is because people are going to want to do, they're going to want to do that. They're going to want to have that type of control at their fingertips, both in production environments and production use cases. What I mean is real time in the runtime thing, to do some diagnosis, to just quickly check on something, to say, hey, my service mesh performance, my SMP, how am I doing right now? I want to tap into this thread, maybe specific to this custom, this token, this JWT or whatever it is, and get that assessment. And that's going to be, I think, a set of fantastic tools. Not only that, but they're going to want to do the thing we talked about before, which is, well, they're planning a change. They want to do a new release of they want to change the config of the mesh, or fine, all their infrastructure is staying the same, but they're going to roll out a new version of their workload. They're going to want to automatically invoke those real-time assessments, and the thing is that real-time assessment of a plan to change. Well, hey, if traffic isn't going to those new services, then it's kind of hard to take a real-time assessment of the impact. Well, guess what? Meshery is a load generator and has 3 different types of load generators in it, and it can do that. So, David, don't get me started, man. It's not good. Good. Thank you for that, Anirudh. Kush, are you still kind of in? I suspect you're not really in a position to do the SMI tool demo.
Yep, my Docker and Kubernetes crashed. It was not able to.
Understood. Very good. All right. Well, we have 2 other topics. One that I'm really excited to tell you guys about. If I don't tell you today, it's fine. It can wait. There's some nice analysis being done on Meshery. But before that, Adiola has a topic for us.
Hi everyone. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, thank you, Lee. Well, it's not really a topic per se. So I wanted to say thank you to Layer5, first of all, because I started my open source contribution journey with them, and it's been bringing a lot of opportunities. And I know that we recently completed an open source challenge from She Code Africa, and I think myself, Roots, I think Precious as well. So yeah, so I contributed to Anita B as well during the challenge, and the Grace Upper Conference is happening in September to October. So I was invited to participate in their Open Source Day, which is happening October 1st, 2020, as a mentor for first-time contributors. So they have a lot of projects, but they were looking for people who can assist with the free track. So because of my affiliation with Layer5, they were thinking for the free track, we could introduce Layer5 project to first-time contributors. And I know that the community is very welcoming. And I was like, okay, that's a good opportunity for, the community to grow, and also opportunities for people who like myself, want to start contributing to open source projects. And I think that Layer5 is a very good place for them to start. And I know that most of them will continue and be committed to. So we have a lot of interesting projects here. So the reason why I'm saying it is because I won't be able to do it alone, right? So I wanted to see or ask the community if anybody would be willing to support on that day, because we have to introduce the project to them. Those who select Layer5 project, introduce it to them, ask, just walk them through how they can contribute. So the main aim of that day is to just be hands-on. So there will be like it's a virtual conference, so there will be like a Slack group or a project platform where people who are contributing will ask questions, will guide them, will check if they're contributing well. So majorly most of what we do at Layer5, reviewing the project, or are they following the guidelines, or the documentations, are they adhering to it? Just to support them and to make them have a good first start. So yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's about it.
I'm not going to say anything because I know that there's some other people in the community who are like probably jumping up and down, raising their hand right now. Does this strike an interest with anyone? See, this is why you guys have to listen to me for a full hour. I don't even feel bad for you at this point. Okay. Nice. Anyway, Adiola, like no doubt, that's exactly what Ruth and Kaleche and Anita and yourself and a lot of you here have been doing what I think is a really impressive job of both paying it forward for others and learning yourself at the same time, and just doing the thing that is so often not done in other communities, which is to highlight folks like Usama and George and many of the other people who introduced themselves today, and be encouraging. So yeah. Boy, I remember the first time I tried to sign a contributor's license agreement, a CLA. Many of you are having to mess with the DCO requirement that we have, the Developer Certificate of Origin, which means you have to sign off on your commits, which also means that you probably want to pull out an Uzi and like shoot your computer, with how frustrating it can be. Which means that like if people are raising their hand to volunteer, it'll be really impactful. I think we'll have less dead computers around the world because of that, and more people being successful with open source. So please reach out to Adiola and yeah. 1 minute before we're wrapped for the day. Anyone have any items that we missed?
I think 2 people joined him while we were having the meeting. I think Adili Khan and Anisat. Yeah. You can introduce yourself very briefly before we start off the meeting.
Nice. Ruth, I think I couldn't really hear you, but I think you were maybe pointing out, is it Anisat that hasn't had a chance to introduce?
Thank you very much, Ruth. Hi, everyone. My name is Anisat Akimbani. I just joined Layer5 not too long ago. This is the first time I'm attending the meeting.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah. And I know that I think you tried to join a couple of, at least one other time, and just
Exactly.
And
exactly.
yeah, the bandwidth wasn't with you at the time, or whatever it was. Damn.
Yes.
It's always the network anyway. It's awesome. Anisat, great to have you. Thank you so much for having an easily enunciated name. We will get along very well.
Thank you very much, Lee. Thank you.
Cool. Well, we're 1 minute over. I'm gonna do this for 30 seconds because I'm so tickled about it. I just can't. I'm gonna pee myself, I think. And that is that one of the things we were able to accomplish this week is get a little bit of the word out about the works that all of you are doing. There's a relatively small analyst firm called Amalgam Insights. They're kind of like a Gartner. They're like a 451 or a Forrester. And they're doing a bit of research. The particular researcher here, his name's Tom. He had done some research on service mesh space in the past, and he's kind of writing up one about Kubernetes and the evolution of Kubernetes. And I wanted to point out that like 4 times in this is a draft of his report, and so he's asking for feedback and review. But like 4 times in his report, he's calling out. In this case, he's calling out Meshery. It's like, the open source project Meshery is all. Yeah. Anyway, I'll next week we'll kind of go through some of the other comments and things. I just wanted to say that people are really paying attention. If you're in the CNCF Slack, which is open to anyone, if you don't have the link, Nikhil anyone can send it to you, but you're welcome to join. You'll see people talking about your projects. It's something to be proud of. So, okay. Well, that's it. KubeCon's a wrap. This meeting's a wrap. Same time next week. Really encouraged to see all the new faces. Please stick around and put Anita and Ruth and Kaleche and everyone here to work. They're here to help. So, all right. Same time next week. We'll see you all.
Yeah, bye,
Bye,
everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.